Welcome to another episode of One Door at a Time, where we come with the infusion of community, education, entrepreneurship, and just about people who are making moves. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of having the president of Coppin State University, Dr. Anthony Jenkins. Coppin is doing amazing things, HBCU. And so just having you here today, I really appreciate it. Thank you for making it happen. I know as a college president, you're pulled in so many different directions. So thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you so much.
The pleasure is mine. It really is.
We're going to get into it really fast. So you become president of Coppin State University in the midst of the pandemic, a couple months in, right?
That's correct.
So your first presidency, am I correct?
Second.
So what was it like becoming a president of a university, a new university, in the midst of the pandemic? 4 months in?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor to actually be here with you. It's very ironic. When I assumed my first presidency of West Virginia State University.
Yes.
When I did that, on day one, the state had just been hit with a 100-year flood. So when I got there, they were digging themselves out of mudslides and just awful situations. And so my first day on the job, I went down to help deliver food, help people move out of water ruined homes, these type of things. And so fast forward 4.5 years later, I come to Coppin State University. Day one, we're in the midst of a global pandemic.
Yes.
So starting presidencies in crisis situations seems to be something that I have mastered. But when I got to Coppin, it was a very interesting time. Obviously, the city was shut down. The university was shut down. Students were not there. It took probably about 5 to 6 months before I was in the same room with my cabinet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because I got there in May.
Yes.
And everything was completely shut down. And we was, as a country and as a world, trying to figure this, thing out. So I was trying to learn Coppin, build connections, and get my feet under me while everyone was in multiple places. I showed up at the office every day. And I would walk around campus and, tumbleweeds would, blow past me. There was nobody there. But, for me, it was an opportunity to get settled.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, the other piece of this is on the book end, I was leaving West Virginia State University in the middle of the pandemic, or kicking off the pandemic.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure they were settled.
Yes.
And in a good place for their new president. And I was walking into this situation wanting to make sure that the university I was about to take over was in a good place.
Okay.
And flipping the actual teaching modality and all of those things. It was a very interesting time, but it was also a great time for me and my leadership team and for our faculty and staff to really reassess how agile we could be and what type of university we were going to be moving forward.
So expound on that a little bit. So being a president at West Virginia State University first,
Yes.
hitting a disaster.
Yes.
Now you're at Coppin State University, but then you're taught. I read in your bio that you were the first graduate of
Virginia Tech. Yes.
to get a presidency.
Correct.
Right.
Well, first grad out of their educational leadership and policy.
Yes.
Yes.
So what was it like? So you learned those leadership lessons there. What did the pandemic teach you about leadership and about yourself?
There was a couple of things. I think outside of what Virginia Tech did, which was very helpful, I really fell on a lot of the skills that I used when I was in the military. And when I graduated high school, I went right into the military. I was 17 and turned 18 in basic training. And a couple of days in, my drill sergeant comes to me and makes me platoon leader of 100 plus, nearly 200 men. So here I am, freshly 18 years old, and I'm in charge of all of these individuals. And it really allowed me to hone in on discipline, structure, accountability, vision, problem solving, all of those things. And those were skills that I still use to this day.
Okay.
All right. And so all of those factors came into play when I was helping and making sure and leading Coppin State through this unprecedented time. So, and they were the same skills I used when I was at West Virginia State University.
Okay.
So they have been very, very helpful to me.
So talk about that journey that you alluded to. You graduate, you go into the military.
Yes.
What took you to the military, and then after the military, where you decide the direction that you're going to go?
Yeah. So I'm a first generation college graduate. I'm born and raised on the southeast side of Washington, D.C.
Oh, and you from? I didn't know you from Southeast D.C.
Southeast D.C. I'm from Fourth and Chick. I used to,
Yes.
We used to shop down at Eastover, down at the center.
Okay.
My mom used to get our Easter outfits from a store called Morton's.
Yeah, I know.
Which was 200% polyester.
Wow. That's what Southeast was Southeast.
So I tell people, right, don't be confused about what you see now. All right. When I came up in Southeast, people wasn't walking dogs and riding bikes and visiting people in Southeast.
I know.
The only dogs you saw were attached to a K9 unit. And the only people who were running had somebody behind them.
You were coming of age doing Rayful Emmons.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So I'm sorry. Like that just
took us over there.
Yeah. Southeast. Like I'm like what? Like DC has done. Yeah. That's a different. Yeah. That's a different part. But
so
as your journey.
Yeah. So and I still take DC with me. I'm very proud of where I'm from.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to go back and talk to Henley Elementary and Friendship, where I went to school, in those places, and let folks know that some good things do come out of the DC public education.
Absolutely.
But I was a first generation college graduate.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about college. My mother never went to college. My mother and father divorced when I was 4.
Wow.
And my mother raised my beautiful sister and my 2 brothers and I. It was 4 of us. There are 4 of us. And she did a remarkable job making sure we didn't fall victim to the trappings of the street.
Yeah, because DC was rough then.
DC was very rough. And so I didn't appreciate it then, but now I do, because she rode us like a jockey.
Yep.
Right. The expectations were high. She was very firm in making sure that we understood our worth, and that we were going to be somebody, and we were going to do something with our lives, and we were going to be good people and good citizens and so forth. So that permeated to when I said, listen, well, I think when I'm done, I've always wanted to serve my country with a uniform and so forth. My mom had different, perceptions, and because I was underage when I wanted to go in, and when I finished, I went through an actual delayed program. So she had to sign me in.
Okay.
Because at 17, I couldn't sign into any contractual agreement with the federal government.
Oh, you went to high school in DC?
Yeah, I went to Blue. And so,
yeah, he's right there.
I am there.
Yeah.
And so after that, left high school, went into the United States Army, ADA, Air Defense Artillery, loved it. One of the best decisions I ever made. I was a washed up athlete. I ran track, played football. So whatever Uncle Sam threw at me physically, I could handle that.
Yes.
I could do all the sit-ups and push-ups Uncle Sam wanted me to do, but it was the other factors. It was those leadership skills. It was the self-efficacy. It was those things, right, that were so important. And then, Uncle Sam and I had a pretty good agreement. I give him 4 years. He gives me $25,000 to go to college.
Wow.
And so, my last stop was at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And, I had a wonderful time there and got introduced to a school called Fayetteville State University.
Fayetteville. Yeah.
And, I enrolled at Fayetteville State University, earned my bachelor's. From there, I went on to earn a master's from North Carolina Central University.
Okay.
And Durham.
HBCUs.
HBCU strong. Fried. And then from there, I took a detour, went to Mississippi.
Okay.
Had a mentor that I met that wanted me to go to Mississippi and help her do some research in a facility called the Mississippi Urban Research Center.
Okay.
After I left that, I had met a second mentor while I was in Mississippi. He was working in student affairs in higher education.
Okay.
And he introduced me to higher ed. And so I asked him one day, I said, Doc, how do I become you? How do I do what you do? I said, how do I become a vice president of a university? Because at the undergraduate level, there's no degrees in becoming a president or a vice president. None of those things. So the first thing he told me, he said, well, you got to go back and get those 3 letters.
Okay.
And I said, what 3 letters? He said, a PhD. I said, oh man, forget that. I said, I'm at school. I mean, I had been broke for so long. I was making a little bit of money with my, masters and so forth, and life was good. And he stayed on me, and he mentored me, and that eventually got me to apply and was accepted at Virginia Tech.
Okay.
So I packed up, left Jackson, Mississippi, and went to Blacksburg, Virginia.
That's crazy. From Southeast DC, right? The military, the Mississippi.
That's right.
And then back.
That's right.
That's a journey.
It is. And so as I tell students now, right, as I tell them, I'm the president of Coppin State University. I'm a long way from Southeast DC. And I'm not talking from Baltimore to DC, where my education took me. It took me around the world, right? It took me, I've spoken in China. I've spoken in Cuba. I've spoken in Mexico. I've been around the world. I've been in just about every state. And that's what my HBCU education did for me. When I went to Virginia Tech, we had a very strenuous doctorate program, and they only admitted 8 students per year. And small cohort. And I'll never forget that when they went around the room and asked us what we wanted to do, I told them I was going to be a university president. And my major professors laughed, right? Not at me per se, but they said, no, university presidents don't come out of the student affairs track.
Yeah, because they want the research academic.
They come out of the academic piece. Yes. And so I found that, as I do with all naysayers and cynical people, as a challenge. And I doubled down on that moment. I said, well, not only am I going to become a university president, but I'm going to do it 10 years after I graduate from this program.
Right.
And when I got my position at West Virginia State, I had wrote a letter to my dissertation chair, Stephen Janasic, and I invited him, to come up and everything, and he couldn't make it, but he wrote me a very interesting and heartfelt letter back. He said, Anthony, when you were here, you said that you would become a university president in 10 years. And he said, when you graduated, you gave me a black Partiga cigar, and you and I smoked a cigar to celebrate you earning your doctorate. He said, I can't make it, and closes a black Partiga cigar. And then he said something that was that I didn't even think about at that time. He said, but I have to correct you. You said you were going to become a university president in 10 years. You didn't. You did it in 9. And he said, I'm extremely proud of you. Right. And so that to me was the start of, whatever I want to accomplish. And I had long, had this mindset that don't allow naysayers and cynical people to distract you from those things. Right. And that was a part of my journey. And I had seen higher education from every perspective. I've worked at large, predominantly white institutions. I worked at the University of Central Florida, which is the largest in the nation. When I left, we were 76,000 students. I've worked at the Virginia Techs. I worked at the UNCs. I worked at the University of Houston's. And so I've seen higher education from rural, urban, historically black, Hispanic serving, and predominantly white. Today,
wide range.
A very wide range. Today, as I'm I'm going into my 10th year as a sitting president. I'm the youngest president in the USM system, but I have more experience than every other president in the system. I have the longest tenure as a seated president in the USM system.
Congrats. No, it's interesting. I learned about Coppin, obviously Lincoln. I didn't take the traditional route. I was kicked out of high school, but between high school and then getting to Lincoln, that journey was absolutely necessary, or that experience, for me to be ready for Lincoln. I took it I was 2 years older than everybody else, I was a little bit more serious about what I needed to do. Still had fun, but I was a little bit serious, a little bit more serious.
I know.
And it gave me that. It gave me the foundation. You know, the synergy. I didn't know about the Southeast thing. That's episode number 2 with this part 2. No, I mean, but there's connection there, right? So I started Concentric because of the Benita Jax tragedy that happened in Southwest over there by Anacostia, and it was really about 4 young children being murdered by their parents. It was like 06 or 07. But you know, I had a fondness of learning DC through home visits. Like Florida and Trinidad is much different now than Florida and Trinidad now.
Oh yes,
8th Street was a little bit is different. The fish boat, right? Like all the, like,
that's right.
But it's amazing that all of our experiences are this wonderful tapestry that we might not even know then. So, you know, my connection with Coppin when I first got there or to Baltimore was seeing it in wonder. Like you're close to Frederick Douglass at the time. A diamond was right there. It has gone through a change, like a powerful change. My mentor was a vice president, Freeman Rabowski.
Yes.
Like Freeman, yeah, right. Like, but it grounded him for him to be ready for UMBC. Like he talks about the fondness of being on Coppin State's campus. So as you take it over, like in all the changes in Coppin State, like what's your vision for it? Because there's some what people knew 20, 30 years about Coppin is not what it looks like now.
That's right.
So what's your vision for it?
Yeah, you know, when I arrived at Coppin, I talked about a couple of things. One is I wanted to introduce and reintroduce Coppin State University.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to introduce it to folks who didn't know us. Mm-hmm. And there were folks right here in our own backyard who didn't know Coppin.
Correct.
And then I wanted to reintroduce Coppin to those who had an outdated perception of Coppin State University. Mm-hmm. And then I wanted to affirm to my faculty, staff, and students that our pace was going to be brisk and our trajectory was going to be north. When I got to Coppin, they were experiencing a 12-year enrollment decline.
Yeah. Yeah.
The state legislature in the University System of Maryland had did studies to see if the institution was even worth keeping open. There were talks about mergers and things of that nature. So I saw Coppin as an opportunity to be a leader in urban higher education. And I felt as if we assembled the right team, we could turn this thing around and put her in a position that she deserves. And that's to be recognized as one of the best institutions in Maryland. And so we got to work. And coming out of the global pandemic, in a short period of time, we reversed the enrollment decline. Our enrollment has increased every year by 5% since 2021.
Congratulations. Yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
The national average is only 2 to 3%. This spring, our enrollment is up 10%. Last year, all of last year, we had 5,400 students submit applications to Coppin State. I'm halfway through the recruitment cycle this year, and I'm over 16,000 applications.
Oh, wow. Because, you know, you see like the aesthetically, it has changed.
That's right.
Right. And I think part of the aesthetic change has, coincided with the perception and the feeling, the fondness and pride that graduates of Coppin State University, like it's valuable, it's powerful.
That's right. And so that was intentional. We wanted to make sure that our alums and families and students understood multiple things, right? Coppin is the most affordable 4-year college or university in the state of Maryland. Grad Reports just did a study, puts us at number 6 in the state on return on investment, right? Higher than a lot of other institutions with bigger budgets, bigger names, and a lot more money. But as I told my team, size nor location will never dictate our level of success across every corner of the institution. And so we've seen significant increases in our overall enrollment. When I arrived, our retention rate was about 52%. Last year, we were at 74%.
That's huge.
That's huge. That's higher than the state average for public institutions, higher than the national average for public institutions. right? Then we started focusing on our rankings. Grad Report, nurse.org. We have the #1 nursing program amongst Maryland's HBCUs.
Mm-hmm.
Forbes ranked our psychology program one of the best in the country. Our business management program was in the top 40 nationally.
Mm.
Our social work program is nationally ranked. Our teacher education program, STEM. These are all of the validations and acknowledgments that we're receiving as an institution. And then when I arrived, U.S. News and World Report had us ranked as the 53rd best HBCU in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
In 2022, we jumped to 35th. Last year, we jumped to 27th. That's a 105% increase in 3.5 years, right?
That's powerful.
You know, and so you then take all those data,
mm-hmm.
and we put together a very aggressive marketing campaign
mm-hmm.
to talk about who we are
mm-hmm.
and all the great things going on at Coppin. And it was social media, it was wrapping buses, it was wrapping the light rail, it was working with the Baltimore Ravens and the Baltimore Orioles and all of these individuals. It was working with parents and students, working with high schools, right? Reimagining that narrative about Coppin. And then I created the Presidential Scholarship. And last year we had 67 presidential scholars accept the Presidential Scholar. Several valedictorians and salutatorians. These students are #1 in their classes. They could go anywhere.
So speak about what does that honor, that acceptance, Presidential Scholar means for the incoming student? What does that mean?
So the Presidential Scholar is the highest scholarship you can earn at the institution. That's a full ride scholarship.
Okay.
Okay. And valedictorians and salutatorians from Western and City and these other, great institutions, right? So wait a minute, right? Most affordable, full ride. You respect my worth, my value, and what I've done at the high school level. And you're atop the best return on investment. Why would I go pay more and get less somewhere else?
Because here's what's interesting, like with the young people today, so my middle son is a senior in high school.
Okay.
It is a business decision.
Mm-hmm. It is.
College is a business decision now. When I went to Lincoln, it was out of state, but it was 24 for the year.
Right.
It's cost prohibitive, and people are making very important economic decisions. So to have that distinction, I think of two people that you remind me of. One is obviously Freeman had a vision for UMBC.
Sure.
He took something and it made it incredible. It probably could have been president, I believe, anywhere ever. So, there were conversations that was like a fly on the wall, hearing the presidencies that were offered to him. And he's like, no. Like, I'm happy here. Yeah. Like he wouldn't go. And then, of a superintendent, there's a superintendent outside of Detroit. His name is, Derek Coleman. Amazing guy. Other than being an alpha, I throw that out there. But he took a school district on the verge of closing, 950 students, right? And grew it to 3,400, right? Because he was very intentional, visionary, rapid pace with urgency, but, not rushing it.
That's right.
Wrapping everything and rebranding it because people had summarily dismissed it because of all the neglect that it had. And that's that's really what I'm hearing from you. So give me your vision, your next 5 years. What do you see?
So obviously we are going to cap and grow Coppin. We are not going to be one of these institutions that's in this constant enrollment growth model.
Okay.
My experience indicates, and I've seen, that is not a sustainable model for institutions. And so that's a whole nother episode in conversation. One of the things I did do as well is I created the Expand Eagle Nation program. And this program is designed for students who are coming from states with 2 or fewer HBCUs. I give them in-state tuition, right? So when you talk about affordability, when you talk about that type of transaction, what we were seeing was students who were coming to us from out of state was running out of money before they graduate. Well, that puts them in a bad position and it puts the institution in a bad position. And as a university, we can do more, right? We can do better. As I've told my students, money will never be the reason that you do not earn your degree at Coppin State University. There's too much money out here. All right. Institutions talk about how big they are and their fancy, beautiful buildings and all of this, but they don't want to invest in the student. The student is why you exist.
That's your student affairs lens.
And that's right. And at Coppin, I want my students to know that they are the center of everything we do in our existence. And therefore, we put the wraparound support services around them. So my vision for Coppin over the next several years, we are breaking ground on a new residence hall. We introduced our College of Business last year. We have some additional physical plant plans for our very beautiful campus. But I want us to become a university of choice. I want students to see us as a top option and not their only option, right? We are going to focus on student success and student completion. We have to get them out. Getting them in is just one aspect. But if they don't transition out, if they are not being transformed through that journey, then we are failing those students.
Absolutely.
And then we are going to continue to lift our brand nationally, globally, and so forth. Right now, we have students who come to us from 40 different states, the District of Columbia, and 32 countries. Right. So we are a very diverse, very multicultural campus. And then we are also going to focus on being a great place to work. I need to retain talent. Right. To me, it's important to make sure that the students are in the right environment and having the right experience. And the way you do that is to have the right talent, the right faculty, the right staff who help nurture those students. And then ultimately, we are going to make sure that we are excelling in our teaching and research excellence. And that's why my goal is for us to become a research university by 2028. So those are the things and my plans for Coppin over the next several years. And as I tell folks, we are just getting started.
Man, I love it. Dr. Jenkins, thank you for spending the time, stopping by. It's even a different bond, Southeast. Yes. Just thank you for stopping by. Appreciate the opportunity. Great things that you're doing for Coppin.
Thank you.
Uplifting another great HBCU, serving the students all across the country. I want to thank you for joining us for another episode of One Door at a Time. As always, you can catch all of our social media at concentric.world. Shout out to our sponsors, Atlas Restaurant Group and Mercedes-Benz of Catonsville. Thank you for fixing that car from that pothole that I hit last week. Until next time, I'm your host, David Heiber. See you.